The moment my daughter looked me in the eyes and said, "I wish you weren't my mother," my entire world shattered. Not on a random day, not during an argument, but at her wedding reception, in front of over 200 guests, while the music was playing and champagne glasses were raised. Before we jump into the story, just a small request: hit the like button to support our stories, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and how you're doing. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new story. Your one like, one comment, and one subscribe truly encourages us and keeps us going. Now, let's begin. To understand how everything fell apart, I need to take you 6 months back, to a time when I believed I was building my daughter's dream, without realizing I was slowly erasing myself. 6 months before the wedding, my alarm rang at 5:30 a.m., just like it had for the past 12 years. My small apartment was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and distant traffic. I brewed cheap coffee and opened my laptop, staring at the spreadsheet that had begun to haunt my nights. Wedding budget, Sarah and Ethan. The numbers blurred together. Venue deposit $15,000 paid. Catering $22,000 paid. Dress and alterations $8,500 paid. Decor, flowers, photography, entertainment, tens of thousands more. At the bottom, the total glared back at me. $173,000. And that didn't even include the honeymoon or their new apartment deposit. I closed the laptop and pressed my palms into my tired eyes. 12 years earlier, my husband, Tom, had collapsed from a sudden heart attack, leaving me alone with medical debt and a grieving 12-year-old daughter. That night, sitting beside Sarah's bed as she cried herself to sleep, I made a promise. I would give her everything. I worked 3 jobs, skipped vacations, skipped rest, skipped my own dreams. Every dollar went into building her future. And it worked. Sarah graduated top of her class, landed a prestigious law job, fell in love with a man from a wealthy, powerful family, and now, here I was, paying for a wedding that costs more than most houses. My phone buzzed. "Sarah, Mom, can you meet me at the bridal shop today? They need your signature for the final payment." I typed back, "Of course." What I didn't type was this: I had just taken out a $50,000 loan at crushing interest to cover the remaining balance. And that decision, that single signature, would soon change everything. Because 6 months later, standing in that glittering ballroom, my daughter would look at me and break my heart in front of everyone. But what truly happened inside that bridal shop, and the silent humiliation I endured, planted the seeds for the explosion that was about to come. The bridal shop smelled like expensive perfume and fresh fabric, the kind of place where dreams were stitched into silk and lace. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, scattering soft light across rows of wedding gowns that cost more than my yearly rent. Sarah stood in front of a 3-way mirror, glowing in a fitted ivory dress, while 2 consultants fluttered around her, pinning, smoothing, adjusting. She looked beautiful, radiant, and for a moment, my chest swelled with pride. "This is the one," Sarah said, her voice confident. One of the women smiled warmly. "Excellent choice. We just need the final authorization." She slid a sleek tablet toward me. "Final payment, $27,450. My fingers tightened around my purse strap. Sarah didn't look at me. She was already studying herself in the mirror, lifting the skirt slightly, admiring how the fabric caught the light. I signed. Just like that, another 5-digit number vanished from my life. As we walked back to the parking lot, I hesitated before opening my car door. "Sweetheart," I said gently, "maybe we should slow down a little. The costs are getting heavy." Sarah sighed, her shoulders stiffening. "Mom, please. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. I can't have things looking cheap." "Cheap?" The word stung more than she realized. "I'm not saying cheap," I replied carefully. "I just mean, everyone in Ethan's family is used to a certain standard," she interrupted. I don't want them thinking I married down. Married down. I swallowed the lump in my throat. You didn't marry down, Sarah. You married the man you love. She avoided my eyes. You don't understand. And maybe I didn't. Not fully. That night, I sat alone at my kitchen table, staring at loan papers spread in front of me. The interest rate made my stomach twist. 7 years of payments. 7 more years of early mornings and aching feet. Still, I signed. Because that's what mothers do, right? They sacrifice. They endure. They give until there's nothing left. 2 weeks later, I received an email proof of the wedding programs. I opened the attachment slowly, excitement bubbling in my chest. At the top, in elegant gold lettering, it read, "Hosted by Mr. and Mrs. Blake." Below, in small print near the bottom, "With gratitude to Catherine Morrison." Not mother of the bride. Not even hosted by, just gratitude. Like I was a generous donor. My throat tightened. When I showed Sarah, she barely glanced at it. "It looks perfect, Mom, clean, professional." Professional. Not loving, not personal. That night, I lay awake wondering when my place in her life had shrunk so small, and I had no idea that this quiet pain was only the beginning, because the closer we got to the wedding, the more invisible I became. And at the rehearsal dinner, I would finally understand just how far my daughter was willing to push me into the shadows. The rehearsal dinner was held in a private room at one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the river, candles flickered on crisp white tablecloths, and a string quartet played softly in the corner. Everything was flawless. Everything except me. I stood near the entrance, clutching my small gift bag, scanning the room for Sarah. She was laughing beside Ethan, surrounded by his parents and their polished circle of friends. Everyone wore tailored suits, glittering jewelry, and expressions of effortless confidence. I suddenly felt painfully aware of my simple navy blue dress and worn heels. When Sarah finally noticed me, she hesitated for half a second before walking over. "Mom," she said quietly, her smile tight, "I need to ask you something." My heart lifted. "Of course, sweetheart." She glanced around before leaning closer. "Could you sit near the back tonight? Ethan's family wants the front. Tables for close relatives and business partners." The words hit harder than I expected. "I am close family," I said gently. "I know," she whispered, clearly uncomfortable. "But it's complicated. They're very particular about image." Image. That word again. I nodded slowly. "All right." She exhaled in relief, kissed my cheek quickly, and hurried back to her guests. I took my seat at the far end of the long table, between 2 distant cousins I barely knew. From there, I watched as servers poured champagne and placed elegant plates before everyone else. Conversations buzzed with talk of stock portfolios, private schools, and destination vacations. No one spoke to me. Halfway through dinner, Ethan's father stood to make a toast. To new beginnings, to family, and to the people who made this beautiful celebration possible, he said, raising his glass. Everyone clinked their glasses. My chest tightened. Not once did he look in my direction. Not once did Sarah. When the applause faded, I stared at my plate, appetite gone. Later that night, as guests mingled, Sarah approached me again, this time with urgency. "Mom, I need a favor," she said. "Anything?" I replied automatically. She lowered her voice. "Could you leave a little early tomorrow, before the ceremony starts? Just until I'm ready to walk down the aisle. I don't want any awkward moments." I blinked. Awkward. She hesitated. "Ethan's grandmother can be judgmental. I don't want unnecessary tension." In that moment, I understood. I wasn't being hidden because of conflict. I was being hidden because of shame. I nodded, forcing a small smile. "If that makes things easier for you." She squeezed my hand briefly. "Thank you, Mom. You always understand." But I didn't. Because a mother should never be something her child needs to hide. And as I walked out into the cold night, something inside me quietly began to break. What happened the next day during the ceremony itself would push me past a point I never imagined crossing. The morning of the wedding arrived, wrapped in soft sunlight and painful silence. I stood alone in my small apartment, adjusting the simple pearl necklace Tom had given me years ago. My reflection looked calm, but my hands trembled slightly. Today was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. Watching my daughter step into her future, yet I had been asked to arrive late, to stay out of sight, to be invisible. I waited in my car, parked 2 blocks from the grand ballroom, watching elegant guests flow through the entrance. Luxury cars lined the street. Laughter floated through the air. Everything glittered with promise. At exactly 3:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Sarah, you can come now." Just like that. No warmth, no excitement, just permission. I drove slowly, my chest tight. Inside, the ceremony was already underway. The doors were partly closed, and soft music drifted into the hallway. A coordinator stopped me. "You're the bride's mother," she whispered. I nodded. She hesitated, then pointed. "Please wait here until the processional is finished." So I stood alone in a narrow hallway, listening as my daughter took each step toward the altar. When the music stopped, I was finally allowed inside. Rows of guests filled the room, their attention fixed forward. I slipped quietly into a seat near the back. From there, I could barely see Sarah's face. I watched as she and Ethan exchanged vows. I listened as they promised love, loyalty, and family. Family? The word echoed bitterly in my mind. Applause erupted. Cheers filled the hall. Everyone rose to their feet. Everyone except me. I remained seated, frozen by a heavy ache that pressed into my chest. At the reception, things grew worse. During introductions, the announcer's voice rang out, listing names with pride. "Please welcome the groom's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Blake." Thunderous applause. And the bridal party. More cheers. And finally, the happy couple. The room exploded. But my name was never spoken. I stood at the edge of the dance floor, watching Sarah twirl in her glowing white dress, her laughter bright and carefree. She never once searched the crowd for me. Then, during dinner, I gathered the courage to approach her. "Sarah," I said softly, "could I have a moment?" She turned, irritation flashing briefly across her face. "Mom, not now. I'm busy. I just wanted..." She leaned closer, her voice low and sharp. "Please don't make this about you." Those words sliced deeper than any insult ever could. Because I had spent my entire life making everything about her. I stepped back, invisible once more, and I didn't know it yet. But the most devastating moment of the night was still ahead. Because just minutes later, my daughter would say something that would shatter the last piece of my heart and change everything between us forever. The music softened as dinner plates were cleared, and the lights dimmed slightly for the speeches. Guests leaned forward in their seats, smiling, ready for heartfelt words and joyful memories. I stayed where I was near the edge of the room, half hidden behind a tall floral arrangement. Ethan's father spoke first. He told stories about his son's childhood, his ambition, his discipline, and the proud family legacy he carried forward. The crowd laughed and applauded. Then Sarah took the microphone. She looked radiant under the spotlight, her veil shimmering as she scanned the room. "For as long as I can remember," she began, "I've dreamed of this moment, of the life I would build, of the family I would create." My heart lifted slightly. She spoke about love, sacrifice, and determination, about choosing the right path, about surrounding yourself with people who elevate you. Then her gaze drifted past me. "And sometimes," she continued, her tone sharpening just a little, "you have to leave behind things that no longer fit the life you're trying to build." A strange hush fell over the room. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. She hesitated for a breath, then added, softly but clearly, even if that means distancing yourself from people who hold you back. The words slammed into me. People who hold you back. My chest tightened as understanding crashed down. Whispers rippled across nearby tables. A few heads turned slowly in my direction. Heat flooded my face. I wanted to disappear. When the applause started, it felt distant, muffled, like I was underwater. My hands trembled as I gripped the back of a chair to steady myself. Minutes later, as guests stood and mingled, Sarah finally approached me. Her smile was strained. "I hope you didn't take that personally," she said. I stared at her, unable to speak. She sighed. "Mom, I love you, but you don't really fit into this world." I needed people to understand that I've moved forward. Something inside me broke. "I paid for this world," I whispered. Her eyes flickered annoyance, not guilt. "That was your choice." My breath caught. All those years, all those sacrifices, all those sleepless nights, reduced to a choice. "I wish," she continued quietly, "you weren't my mother sometimes. Things would be easier." The room spun. "I'm sorry," she added quickly, glancing around, "but it's the truth." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Then I turned and walked out. Not because I was weak, but because I finally understood something. I had spent my entire life pouring into someone who no longer saw me, and in that moment, I made a decision that would shock everyone, because the next morning, I would do something no one, especially my daughter, ever expected. The morning after the wedding, I woke before sunrise. My chest heavy, but my mind strangely clear. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about what Sarah needed. I was thinking about what I needed. I made coffee, sat by the window, and watched the city slowly come alive. Cars passed. Lights flickered on. Life moved forward, whether I was ready or not. Then I opened my laptop. One by one, I pulled up every financial document. The wedding payments, the loans, the investment accounts, the savings I had quietly built for Sarah's future. And for the first time, I asked myself a question I had avoided for decades. Why am I destroying my own life to earn love that no longer exists? With trembling hands, I began making changes. First, I canceled the remaining honeymoon upgrades I had prepaid. Then I withdrew the final deposit meant for their luxury apartment lease. Penalties applied, but I didn't care. For once, I chose peace over approval. Next, I called my financial advisor. "I want to restructure everything," I said. "All future support stops today." He paused. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." By noon, it was done. That afternoon, I did something even more unexpected. I toured a small coastal town 2 hours away, a place I had once dreamed of living but dismissed as unrealistic. By sunset, I placed an offer on a modest beachside home with wide windows, soft sand outside the door, and silence that felt like healing. 2 weeks later, I moved. I didn't announce it. I didn't explain it. I simply began living. 3 days after my relocation, my phone exploded. Missed calls, voicemails, text messages. "Sarah." Her tone shifted quickly, from confusion to frustration to panic. "Sarah, Mom, what did you do?" "The apartment lease fell through. The honeymoon upgrades are gone. The accounts." I listened to the voicemail twice. Then I typed a single reply. One chose myself. Minutes passed. Then another message arrived. "Sarah, you can't just abandon me like this." I stared at the ocean through my open window, the salty breeze brushing my face. Finally, I responded. "I didn't abandon you. I stopped abandoning myself." There was no reply. Months have passed since then. I walk barefoot along the shore each morning. I read books. I paint. I breathe. And for the first time in my life, I am free. Because sometimes, the bravest act of love is knowing when to walk away. If this story touched your heart, tell me in the comments. What city are you watching from? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story so more people remember. No matter how old you are, it's never too late to stand up for yourself.